everyone. It's time for another Careers Clinic. I'm Brian, Career Advice UK, and I'm going to be live streaming for about the next 35 minutes or so because I do have a few things I need to do this morning, so it's going to be a little bit abbreviated today, and I'll be taking your questions on anything career related, which includes anything career related, such as CVs, cover letters, job interviews, negotiating starting pay, applying to university applications, personal statements, workplace issues, and more. So if you do have a question, please put it down below. I'll pick it up on a first come, first served basis. And one of the things, that has always been of interest to me is the topic of AI and its impact on jobs. And for me, I always kind of struggle with the doomsayers of saying that AI is replacing jobs and it's causing people to lose jobs. I'm not. Hey, Usman. Hey, thank you for your question. I think you can get that into if you have a degree in economics. Economics is a good one for finance, and if you have experience as treasurer and you're keeping track of payments, it is a good step into finance. So I would just start looking for roles that draw on in the way of finance that draws on that experience, such as budgets and also payments and account management. One of probably the better areas to look at is universities, and especially if you're working in as a treasurer, and I'm assuming you would be working as in kind of like the charity sector. One of the things to look at is like the universities, and look at their grant award, pre-awards and post-awards teams to see if and try to apply for those, because those are really good jobs, and they do open up a world of opportunities for you. So I would say take a look at universities and other volunteering roles, charity sector roles, where you can draw onto that experience. So that is a good question, and yes, it should open up further roles for you. So if you are, no problem. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it down below. I will pick it up for you. So if you have, it's as my name states, Career Advice UK. Yes, I am North Yorkshire way. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it down below, and I will pick it up on a first come, first served basis. So if you do have questions, especially one of two of my favorite topics that I do talk a lot about are why is it difficult to find a job in the UK? I come on early. Usually because it's a time. Why do I do 4 a.m.s? It is, for me, 4 a.m. is a time that works because I do have other things I do in the morning. And also, too, when it comes to traffic and views and stuff, and interaction, and I do get more at 4 a.m. than when I've tried it at let's say 6 p.m. or 8 or even noon. I tried it a couple of times, and I just find I get more views and more traffic that way. Well, thank you for sharing the live. So if you're just joining, you do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. Because when you do follow, you do get up to dates with my content, and also up to date regarding I did it's the name sounds familiar, Alicia, but I don't exactly remember. The name sounds familiar, but I just can't remember at this moment. Um, hey, so oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, now I remember. Yes, yes. Hey, Alicia. Yes, do remember a bit. So how are things going? So yeah, so it is. So yes, if you do like the likes, if you do like the feed, please like, please share, and please follow. I do take your questions on anything career related, CVs. Again, how to structure, what do you put on? Should you just send out the same CV to everyone? Cover letters, why do you need cover letters? Oh, well, yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Yorkshire Yank, for the tofu and also the heart me. Thank you. Oh, that's nice to hear, Brad. Um, oh yeah, definitely. Oh, thank you for all the for the gifts there, Yorkshire Yank. Oh yeah, I do. That's why I'm user 182. That's why I do these. That's also why I run a career business. So yes, so if you do have a question, please feel free to put it down below, and I will pick it up on a first come, first served basis. So what is your question, user 182? So, uh, so yes, if you do have a question, please feel free to put it down below, and I will. It depends on it depends on what are you interested in doing and what type of field. It really depends. Um, what is and how do you define what is the best career, because that is such um, a wide area. For me, T levels, I'm not a big fan of the way the UK does it, in the way of like A levels, T levels, and all. I think it just really overly complicates things. For me, in my own personal opinion, I'm more of a bigger fan of the International Baccalaureate, because the IB gives you a lot more options, I do believe. I think T levels and A levels, I think, really start to limit your options, and I think it may get you quicker into a career, but as you go through your career, I believe the A levels and T levels really limit your options, because then when you go on to if you go on to university, for example, and you decide um, to do a degree, it does start to, I think, limit your choices. And it does kind of force people then, when they kind of get mid-career, to say, I need to change, and then change careers, because I'm not as happy as I used to be with what I'm doing. I'm not as passionate. I want to change. And when you do that, I think the UK education system, unless you have an IB, really kind of, I think, really limits and means that you have to go back, convert, do a lot of additional work when it may be a lot easier in different ways to do it. So I'm not a fan of T levels or A levels. Yeah, I know, but I think IB is really the way to go, especially because it does keep your options open. Um, it really keeps your options open, and it doesn't really limit you, because when you look at the way you go with A levels, for example, A levels will um, basically mean that whatever you pick as your A levels, that will limit, your options. You start to limit your options once you start to pick your A levels. And IB, especially when you're young, keeps your options open, because in my opinion, no 17, 18, 19-year-old really knows what they want to do. And they need a chance to be able to do a bit of explore, kind of get some work experience, and start to really begin to define what they want to do. And I think, in my opinion, the kind of the A-level system really begins to limit career options really too quickly. So I am not a big fan of them. So, but it is, I still think it is, to me, that's a good question. Is uni going worth it? I think there is a kind of an argument for both ways. I think, in my opinion, if you're looking for more the traditional route, I think universities are still worth it. I think with apprenticeships, the problem with apprenticeships is there's not many, and it is very competitive to get an apprenticeship. And it is, even if you look at, if you look at apprenticeships, it is still a very small percentage of people do it. And it is, and part of it is because businesses, just won't invest, they are expensive for businesses. They do get money towards it through the apprenticeship levy. But again, it can be very competitive to get an apprenticeship. And it does, if you do an apprenticeship, it does lower your, it cuts the debt. You don't have debt. But I think, in all fair honesty, if you're looking to, if you're deciding between apprenticeship and university will still provide you the more traditional route. There's more options and more places available, and it's less competitive, I believe, than an apprenticeship. If you do an apprenticeship, I think you do really need to kind of start to kind of segment it, because there is a bit of push right now against kind of doing level 4, 5, 6, and 7 apprenticeships, and more in favor of the level 2 and 3s to get neats into the job market. So if you're really going to do an apprenticeship, you really need to do it kind of probably segmented, to do a level 2, level 3, then go on to a level 4. For me, I think, in my opinion, the advantage of university over an apprenticeship is, I do think what an apprenticeship does is kind of gives you more the real life skills. You will get, some coursework with it, but you get more of the skills and less the ability to learn how to think critically, how to look at things from different perspectives, how to really communicate. It is, an apprenticeship will kind of limit you into that sector, to that area. And I think too, what I see some of the issues with the UK education system, I think the apprenticeship just feeds into it, because it really starts to limit your choices and career options. And I think, university can and does keep your career options open. So I think really if you're going to go to university, I think really the question for you is, what is it that you want to get from it? What what are your goals from going to university versus apprenticeship? And apprenticeship will, like I say, will get you work experience, but university will open up and give you more of the critical thinking skills that I think to a certain extent gets missed with apprenticeships. And I think too that apprenticeships really start to begin to at least limit some of your options. So I would say if you want to keep a bit of options open, I think university is still the way to go, because nobody at 17, 18, 19 really knows what they really want to do, and really kind of starting to go down a career path really means committing to it. It also means you're some people I know from my lives want to be able to at least hey Kenan, thanks for the likes, really want to be able to have a chance to kind of just slowly become adults and not rush into adulthood. And university, I think, gives you that ability to transition than doing an apprenticeship. Because if you do an apprenticeship, one of the things you are kind of forced to do is grow up quicker, because you are now working, you're responsible to adhere to a contract, to follow a contract, and to make work commitments, and you are forced to grow up a little bit quicker. If you are doing an apprenticeship, I mean, it's going to university, it is a little bit of a slower burn into adulthood. You do get to have a little bit of fun. You get to do experience life a little bit, have to interact and stuff. And so I think at least from my experience, in my opinion, I still think university is worth it. But I think, too, as time goes on, I think traditional universities will probably become less important, and there will be changes into the way people learn, train, and develop in the workforce. So that's a very good question. So, yes. So if you're just joining and you do like the feed, please please share, and please follow. And if you have a question, put it down. I will pick up, on a first come, first serve basis. So if you have a question, please feel free. Hey, good morning, XTSY Angel. How are you? So if you have a question, please feel free to put it down below, and more than happy to pick it up. So yes, so if you have a question, please feel free to put it down below. Having a good conversation, about universities and IBs and O levels, T levels. And so asking questions and talking about changes in the workplace. Now, for me, the big change is that tends to get a lot. Hey, good. I know a lot of people who come on this time work nights, and taking a break. I'm doing good. How about yourself? And just taking a little bit of a break to watch kind of background. So, hey, Isabel, So yeah, so if you have a question, feel free to put it down. As I was saying, if you do have questions, like if you're, you know, are you sending off, CVs without a response? You know, so if you are sending off CVs without a response, put it into the comment section. And again, if it is something, anything careers related, I do pick up. So if there is anything, feel free, to let me know. And more than happy, to pick up any questions that you may have if you're sending off CVs. AKB, good to see you. Hey, Whitney. Hey, good to see both of you. So if you are sending off CVs and getting no response, please, put it down below. There's usually a very quick fix for those. Thank you for the likes, KB. So there are usually quick fixes. That way it is. Okay. I mean, that is a very kind of niche area. You would have to look at the cruise lines and look for and follow for openings for nurses. It may be, again, trying to look for agencies that may work with the cruise lines that may put nurses on board. But it is, like I say, very kind of niche, specialized kind of area. That will be, again, would be a bit, I would say, economically sensitive, because as if there's, outbreaks of, potential areas that are subject to attack, may be in hotspots, politically hotspots. It may be a area, some may not sail. Also, too, if there is, economic downturn, people will spend less on, luxuries like cruises. And so it may mean that, it is one world that can be a bit open to fluctuations in the market. I would say if you are really looking, start to reach out to the cruise lines. There's only, I think, just a limited number of cruise lines, so the jobs and opportunities will be limited. But if you're looking more on the travel end of things, I would start to say, look at other things, other areas. Airlines may have a need. Trying to think, other travel airlines may have a need for nurses. You may have the opportunity in potentially, with tour groups, working with tours, travel companies may have needs for nurses. And so again, keep it, I would say, try to keep your options a bit more broader. So instead of just being really specific on cruise lines, look at tour groups, tour companies, potentially airlines. It's a good question, Killer Asteroids. It is, I would say to you, it really depends. It really depends on the role, and the qualification. I would say it wouldn't hurt. Hey, thank you, Chief, for the follow. It wouldn't hurt you. But again, it does sometimes open when you do small online qualifications. Sometimes there is always a question about, did you just pay for it? And do you really know the skills? So if you can demonstrate that you've used it in something like, if you do an online course on Excel, and then you go have a job where you use Excel, then it does kind of show the link, helps to establish that link. But if you do, let's say, Excel and you're a chef, but you don't really document, using Excel for maybe ordering or tracking orders or something like that, it may not be as worth it. So I would say to you is look at the job description. Look at, the job description and see if it's worth putting it on it. If it doesn't really align with the job, it may not be worth putting it on, but I would say really look closely at the job description and see if it does align and see if they, and put it on if you think it's worth. Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good question, A. If you are an artist, and you are, if you're an artist, I would say, graphic artist would probably be a good one to transfer into. I don't think it would be a big transition. I think you just would need to, graphic design. I think you just would need to begin to create a little bit of a portfolio to show some of your graphic designs. Maybe do a few, if you can get a few customers where you can design like a logo or something and start to create a portfolio. That would be great. I would say killer asteroids. If you're just, if you're trying to, let's say, transition into a job like retail, no problem, A. So what can you put on your CV if you have no experience? I would always say take a look at your educational experience. And start to look at your experience in education, because again, I think education will potentially have something there you can show, like communication, bit of group leadership, working as a group, working as a team, working independently, meeting a deadline. You can start to draw on that, and if you've done some volunteering or done some extracurricular, sports, anything like that, again, you can start to draw from those experiences. What I always will caution people is when you do those experiences, you will be asked about them in a job interview. So make sure you're able to, be able to provide evidence on that to show how it was used. When did you use it? What was the results? Talk it through. Why did it come up? What did you do? What did you learn from it? You need to be able to really kind of talk it through, and it needs to be something that's happened. You can't make up stuff, because it is really, a ground for fair dismissal. So always remember to speak about it, but be able to evidence it, because you never know. They may find out or ask about it to your previous employer, or go to your academics. If it's from academics, may actually, find out and have a bit of chat. So always be, prepared to talk about it. Make sure it did happen. Don't misrepresent or overstate, because it can come back to haunt you later. Again, with retail, think about, what is the retail job, stacking, have you created workbooks, Excel workbooks, to track things, have you, set up displays, think about the things you have done and start to look at those experiences. And it will be something you can start to put on to your CV. And what I would say, if it is, a new area for you, look at, the functional CV versus, the chronological, because the functional will highlight your skills for you. So I would say take a look at that. It is going to be a bit hard. I would say a functional CV, I think, may be kind of the way to go for you, because you're listing skills, not work experience. And so you can put your skills on it. You can put on your education and start to, highlight any successes that you've had in your education. If you've done volunteering, any, successes with volunteering or extracurriculars. So take a look at those and start to look at that as a way to do functional CV, because I think functional CV will really help you out. Hey, thank you, A, for the follow. So yeah, so functional CV is probably the way to go. So yeah, so if you have a question, always feel free to put it down below. I will pick it up on a first come, first served basis. If you do like the feed, please like, please share, please follow. Yeah, no problem. It's functional CVs. If you look on functional CVs and you do an internet search, you'll just find a slew of examples of how to structure them. And it is, but if you need help, refining and stuff, get in contact. And I do charge a little bit for time, because I do get a lot of requests. So, but more than happy to help out. Just if you want to get in contact, just look at my profile and the contact information there. So yeah, hey Jesse, good to see you. So if you do have a question, anyone, please feel free to put it down below. I will pick it up on a first come, first served type of basis, and give you a couple tips and advice. So I will be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time, taking your questions again on career-related topics. If you do have a question, feel free. If you're looking, if you do join the my lives, and you want a benefit from joining, take a look at becoming either a fan, just simple 1 point heart me, gets you to become a fan. That gives you priority with questions and shout outs. Also, to take a look at superfans, because I do only have just one. In the best way to find a superfan, or if they call subscriber, is just go to profile, look down to the left, and there's subscription, and you can click on it, and you'll see the benefits that come with being a subscriber. And so, if you have any questions, feel free to put it down below. And like I say, I'll be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time, and I will talk a little bit more. Hey, Mark, good to see you. A bit about the topic of tomorrow. I'll pick up a little bit on why is it difficult to find a job in the UK, and talk a bit about AI and its impact on the UK job market. So, so just if it, so if you have a question, so if you do have a question, please feel free to put it down below. I know the timer shows about 6 minutes left, and I will, pick up a question if needed, and stay on beyond that if needed. Otherwise, I will just let the timer run down, and see you back tomorrow at 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time. If you do have a question, feel free to put it down below. I will pick it up, and I talk about anything, pick up any questions on anything career related, such as CVs. What do you put on a CV? Is it best to send out the same CV to every employer, or to use a CV template? What should you put on it? How do you edit a CV? How long should it be? Hey, Steve Hatfield, how long should a CV be? How do you structure it? What type of CV should you use? All those types of questions in cover letters. Do you need a cover letter? Why do you need a cover letter? What should you put on a cover letter? I do cover. And also, too, talking a little bit about academics in applying to university, A levels, T levels. It's kind of my, university, applying to university, writing personal statements, workplace issues, abdagoga, workplace issues. And usually when I do talk about workplace issues, I do draw on my experience as a team manager, and talk about how do you resolve it, and how do you get over kind of the fear of raising issues, because a lot of times people do think you have to be perfect and you should be able to handle the problems on yourself, and that if you need help with something, then it shows a sign of a weakness. And that shouldn't be the case, because your employer is there to help you. Contrary to what a lot of people think, your employer is there to help you to work through the issues. So I would say, use the resources available to you. So I do talk about workplace. I also talk about how to negotiate salary, starting salary, agencies, using social media to find jobs. So anything, anything you want, or anything you have, in relation to that, please let me know, and I will pick it up. More than happy to do that. More than happy to take your questions on it. Hey, Jess, good to see you. So if you have a question, feel free to put it down below. I will pick it up and get you an answer. Like I say, when I do this as a question answer format, it's really kind of driven by you, the viewer. And I try to give, answers to questions that can be easily answered in a couple minutes. Those that require more, I would encourage you to drop me a line, look at my contact details, and send me a message. Please, if you do have a question, feel free to drop it down below, and I will pick it up from you and answer it and get you the answer you need. So if you have, if you have a question, please feel free. So if you have so if you do have a question, please feel free to put it down below and I will pick it up from you. And so I will be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Median Time, taking your questions. Taking your questions. And we'll come back to you with anything, that you may have. So if you have any question, please feel free. Please feel free to ask away, and I can. Hey, Amber, thank you for the follow. Good question, Killer Asteroids. My opinion, no, but it does. It's an optional but personal profile. If you do it right, it really helps to summarize your career experience and makes it a bit more targeted, focused, for the recruiter to know what to look at. It summarizes his skills. So I would say it's optional, but it is a good thing to include. If you're going to do a profile, you really need to keep it very short, 2 or 3 sentences at the most. I got a couple quick tips for you, Amber. And if you want a bit more, I do work with people with developing CVs. However, I do charge to my time. If you just take a look at my profile, the contact information is there. But a couple quick tips for you is write a CV for every job that you apply for. Align it with the job description. Align it with the job description. Make sure you use like power words, strength words. Try to keep it active tone. Keep it, if you can, to no more than 2 pages. If you have work experience, no, or limited work experience, about 1. And make sure it's structured correctly and it's logically, flows logically. Lonely. You should update your CV, because sometimes when you update your CV, it does answer a lot of questions. Yeah. It does. You should update it, because if you don't, it is potentially the basis of being dismissed on a fair basis for misrepresentation. So yes, so you do need to update your CV. You do need to keep it accurate and up to date, regardless if it's the same job you apply for each year, because it is. Because it is a potential for dismissal. And sometimes with job centers, I have found from my own experience, they don't really understand the job marketplace and what employers want. They have, I think, from my own experience with them, they tend to have a very kind of broad knowledge, that tries to get people to apply for jobs that they don't really qualify for. And so it is, I don't always have a lot of stock in the advice from job centers. If you want more expert advice and people who do understand more of the marketplace, then it is better to look elsewhere and to get a bit of support. So yes, so what I will say is, thank you for joining. Thank you for the likes, share, follows, and gifts. And I will be back tomorrow, 4 a.m. Greenwich Medium Time.